in my ear today, and it ain't going to be pleasant. Okay? So hopefully I'll have good news to pass along in that regard on tomorrow's show. Which leads me to another thing I wanted to bring up. And this is something that has bugged me for several years, especially after I started working for Kraft Foods. This complaint among people about, you go into a store, say, around Labor Day or shortly thereafter, and a lot of stores are already starting to put up Christmas displays or Halloween displays. Well, this is to encourage people to shop for these things early so that you have a supply. That's one of the reasons. But what bugs me is people that say, "Oh, I'm not ready for Christmas. Yeah, they already got their Christmas stuff out." Blah, 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 blah. Well, did you ever stop to think that some poor schmuck is working an 8 to 12 hour shift, possibly a second job, producing this crap so that they can put a roof over their head, food on their table, feed their family? It's not always about you, folks, okay? There's somebody that, maybe like me, who had bigger dreams and for whatever reason made some bad decisions along the way and had to take one of these jobs. Now, I'm not knocking Kraft. Kraft has been great to me, and I've tried to be good to Kraft. But this notion, though, that, well, I'm not ready for it. Well, you don't have to be, but the options are out there. And yet you're the same people that will bitch about the parking and the long lines on December 24th when you're shopping for those last-minute gifts because you kept putting it off and putting it off. And I hate that. So think about what you're saying when you go into a store. Just because a lot of us, well, more of us have college degrees, doesn't mean we're going to be out there saving the world. I like to think of it more like the quantum leap effect was what I like to call it, in that I affect someone else's life, they affect someone else's life. It's a chain reaction, okay? And, yeah, I admit I may kind of jump the fence on that in terms of doing these podcasts, but I love broadcasting. I've been a fan of radio since I was a little kid. I have not made that a secret on this program. If you go back, I believe back to the September 13th episode or thereabouts, I explained a little bit about what interested me in radio and why I got into it. So, when you go into a store and you say something like that, that is highly insensitive and is often for people who've had a fairly cushy life in terms of not having to worry about a job. In other words, having to get up at a ridiculous hour, go in for long hours, you're tired, you're fatigued, and you're sacrificing your family, just family time to be with your family, to break some of those connections, just so you can keep a roof over your head. That's all I'm going to say on that for right now, okay? Let's see. Now getting on to more serious matters. One more thing. Did you watch Game 5? Game 5 of the World Series last night? I didn't. Pardon me. And considering the way the Cardinals played, I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't watch it. I mean, I kept up to date with scoring updates and so forth, but for the most part, I did not watch it. I mean, I tuned in every so often, every few innings, but most of the time the Cardinals were trailing when I tuned in. Well, they fell last night 3-1 to the Boston Red Sox at Busch Stadium. They now trail 3-2 in the World Series and are headed back to Boston, where they have to win the next two games. They have to win 2 games just to win the World Series. They can't afford any more screw-ups. And hopefully the changes that they made, putting Wacha into pitch tomorrow night at Fenway Park, will help out. So we will see. All right, now getting on to the hardcore issues of the day. Lately, I've been more critical of the Obama administration, more so than I have been for quite some time, because I believe in giving this administration the benefit of the doubt. But you're well into your second term, Mr. President. You're into the first year of your second term, and you're making a lot of rookie mistakes. As a matter of fact, your administration is making more rookie mistakes now than you did when you got started 4 years ago. Accusations over the Affordable Care Act and U.S. spying, excuse me, continues to loom heavy over the administration. and with political controversies at home and abroad, there are two key questions bubbling beneath the surface. What did President Obama know, and when did he find out? Namely about the spying situation, but it also pertains to healthcare.gov. And I don't know about you, but you can't go to a boss forever, and in this case, the American people are the boss here, to a certain extent. But you can't go to your boss and say, I was not notified of this, or I didn't know about this. Well, that says to me that you're not communicating with your people very good, that you have lousy internal communication. And I've worked for a number of companies, nonprofit, profit, big and small, private individuals, major corporations, and I have learned, among many things, that one of the biggest things that can do any business operation under is miscommunication, or even worse, lack of communication. That is a big detriment. And the Obama administration is succumbing to this. And I'm a supporter of this administration. But quite frankly, I'm getting tired of turning on the evening news or reading the newspaper and reading quotes or hearing quotes from the president saying, I didn't know. Well, why didn't you know, Mr. President? You have all these advisors, some of the smartest people in the world working for you, and yet they're holding this information back? I can understand if it were a bunch of Republicans, but these are members of your own party, people that helped you get elected. And it bugs me that you're still going to get paid buku's amount of money long after all this is over for the rest of your life, and you have a lousy internal communication in your department, in your administration. That is totally inexcusable. And I say this as a supporter. I can only imagine what your detractors are saying right about now. They're probably thinking, well, I've jumped ship. No, I haven't jumped ship. But you got to have decent communications flowing here, or your administration is sunk. You can't get anything done. And I'm starting to think the Democrats are as much at fault for the recent government shutdown as the Republicans. Now, I know the Republicans ramrodded some unreasonable and unethical and illegal practices, but it doesn't excuse the fact that your administration needs to improve its communication systems. Well, U.S. officials have said that the president didn't know about the problems with website for healthcare policy that he championed, and that it wasn't until recently that he learned about a national security agency operation that wiretapped the German chancellor's phone. And I will say this for President Obama. He is good at coming up with creative ideas and solving problems, but he's lacking follow-through. And this is one of the things that made me reconsider voting for him the first two times. But I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Because after McCain chose Sarah Palin to be his second in command, and then Mitt Romney running for office in 2012, I wasn't happy with either choice. Now, I'm positive that Senator McCain is a good American, and I applaud his service to his country. Same with Governor Palin. I'm not a big fan of Governor Palin. I think she's an idiot because she has a propensity for quitting when the situation gets it over her head and she feels like she can't handle it. She's given up her post on the Wasilla City Council. She gave up the governorship. Now, I admit, if I were governor of a state and I had an opportunity to run for VP on a presidential ticket, even if there was a chance that I wouldn't win, I probably would still consider it. But with that being said, I question their decision making. Mitt Romney, I'm sure, is a decent guy. From what I can tell, he is a good family man and all. But I didn't think he had the shoulders to be president of this country. I felt he was wishy-washy. His stance on the Affordable Care Act was wishy-washy at best, because he advocated for it in the state of Massachusetts, and yet it's pretty much the same damn system nationwide that we have now, and yet Massachusetts system seems to work a whole lot better than the one we've got going on the federal level. Well, anyway, Dianne Feinstein, the chairwoman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, became the latest official to say the president was unaware of at least some spying. She said, "It is my understanding that the president was not aware that the German chancellor's communications were being collected since 2002. That's a big problem. You bet your ass it's a big problem. For 11 years this has been going on and nobody knew about it?" I wonder, did President Bush W., did he know about this? I mean, and then questions about what the president knew and when he knew it have some important implications here. Now, if the president was aware, that could mean he isn't being clear with the American public right now, which is something that he promised us 5 years ago, that if elected president, there would be more open dialogue between his administration and the American public. But since they've been in office, a lot of those channels of communication have been cut off. And the problem is, the people that are protesting the most are the most radical. And yet, the majority of Democrats seem to have rose-colored glasses on through this whole situation. And I admit, I've been guilty of it to a certain extent. But I'm going to have to play devil's advocate on this, because this affects everybody now. Okay? Our communications, this program could possibly even be monitored. But I'm going to say it anyway, because I have that right as an American citizen to voice my opinion. And if he wasn't aware of the wiretapping, that could mean his own staff is intentionally keeping him in the dark. Regardless of what the reason is, they're keeping him in the dark. That doesn't excuse him either. So there's really no good answer. Now, if he knew essentially that we're being misled by different people in the administration, about the extent of the president's knowledge, if he didn't know that it's an abdication of even the most basic responsibilities of the command and control over very important parts of his administration, and that becomes a problem for you and I. Okay? Now, this isn't the first time this sort of situation has come up, and someone aiming to protect the president could have deliberately kept him out of the loop. Much like how President Reagan was protected a lot of times back during his administration. So he gets to sort of exonerate himself and say, I really don't know. But if he's not responsible, then who is? But ultimately, Mr. President, this comes back on your shoulders. He has to be accountable for major decisions and major moments like this. When someone like Merkel calls him, he has to be able to be accountable to her and say, these aren't the decisions made by other people. Because otherwise you have a puppet administration here. And I hope to God that's not the case. Because if that is, then the next 3.5 years are going to be pure hell. And we don't need a puppet administration. Now, continued on, last week on CNN, Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius said the president didn't know of the problems with the Affordable Care Act's website until after its glitch-laden launch on October 1st. Another big oversight. Now, this was despite the fact that insurance companies had been complaining and that the site crashed during a pre-launch test run. At a news conference yesterday, White House spokesman Jay Carney declined to detail what the president knew and when. He continued to sidestep the issue. He said that tying topics like problems with the Affordable Care Act website and reports about NSA spying together is conflating a bunch of very disparate issues. And I feel sorry for Jay Carney because he's basically the canary sent into this coal mine to deflect the situation. And they're going to leave him hanging to dry. Mark my words, Jay Carney, I believe, will resign in the next few months. I would say probably by the end of winter at the latest. At least that's the way I see things right now. But we'll see. Well, asked about a Wall Street Journal report that the White House stopped the operation monitoring Merkel after learning about it.